let's get started. And I don't know how many will be with us today. I don't. I know the rabbi is not in town. I don't know if he will be able to link in with us during this session. Rabbi Miri is also, as she had told us all, that she won't be back for a while. She's going to be out of town.
Chris will be here late because I was on the phone.
Yes. So we'll get started, and let me read the opening prayer. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have sanctified us through your commandments and commanded us to busy ourselves in things of Torah.
Amen.
Amen. And with that, I'm going to ask David to do his, or to read his Saturday morning devotional poem to us, which he usually does. Yes, please.
Thank you, Marty, and everybody, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Today's quotation is in honor of Marty, and it is from Middlemarch, which is this wonderful novel by Marianne Evans, aka George Eliot. And this is the quote I found in Middlemarch. Does it seem incongruous to you that a Middlemarch physician or surgeon should dream of himself as a discoverer? Most of us indeed know little of the great originators until they have been lifted up among the constellations and already rule our fates. But that William Herschel, for example, who broke the barriers of the heavens, did he not once play a provincial church organ and give music lessons to stumbling pianists? Each of those shining ones had to walk on the earth among neighbors who perhaps thought much more of his gait and his garments than of anything which was to give him a title to everlasting fame. Each of them had his little local personal history sprinkled with small temptations and sordid cares, which made the retarding friction of his course towards final companionship with the immortals. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, David. Very well done. Question. David, have a question. Middlemarch. Okay. What I'm reminded of also is the Ides of March. When you say that with the change that occurs, but I think it is not necessarily always a change for bad. It is a change for good as well.
I believe so. Middlemarch. I got Middlemarch, the book, when I was in first year McGill in 1966. And it was a doorstop of a book which I never touched until about 10 years ago. I finally read it, and it was hard going until I found that paragraph. And that lit me with that book. But I was never able to find any reference in the book when I read it to the Ides of March, just the fact that it was this lovely little town in England, kind of like a Peyton Place kind of thing going on.
Sure.
But it was I thought that particular thing I've never forgotten, and I'm really glad that I found it to read it to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
When he started with Middlemarch and the Ides of March, my brain went to Wanda April with his Soto, the Doct of March hath pierced Todorota, and Prophet every vine is richly cured, of which virtue engendered is the floor. It's Canterbury, the opening lines of Canterbury Tales. I had to memorize the first 18 lines, and they're still in there.
Okay. Well, with that, why don't we read Genesis 49.
49, what?
Were we on, did we, I guess we start with Joseph, verse 22.
Verse 20. Okay.
Okay.
No, it's Nick.
Would you like me to begin the reading this morning?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, before I begin, I do need to say that I'm going to have to depart early today at 11:45
Yep.
because I have another meeting to go to.
Okay.
And but I'll do the best I can until then.
Thank you, David.
Verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful vine by a fountain. Its branches run over the wall. The archers have dealt bitterly with him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode firm, and the arms of his hands were made supple by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From the shepherd, the stone of Israel, even by the God of thy father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that coucheth beneath, blessings of the breast and of the wombs. The blessings of thy father are mighty beyond the blessings of my progenitors, unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of the prince among his brethren.
Okay, let's stop at that point. Thank you, David. Any comments? Some of us in our reading have noted that we have a slightly different interpretation of the Hebrew into English. And again, I have to apologize only because I do not know Hebrew. But we can always, when we have a chance, we can, if we have remaining questions, we can always discuss this with Rabbi Mary and Rabbi Rabbi Norman. So when
Marty, can I read commentary on that?
Sure.
The translation I have says, Joseph is a wild ass by the spring, wild colts on the hillside. And part of the commentary is, because it has the fruitful bough, similar to David's reading. It said, even if the alternative suggested in the translation note is accepted, the image is still one of fertility and vigor.
Right. That's what I have.
We must have the same Bible.
Okay. But any other commentaries that anyone may have in their respective books? Okay. First, Pastor Bruce and then Don.
I have, I think, the same translation that was just read. The commentary that I'm looking at is, it says, though the rock of Israel is a well-known description of God, it even appears in Israel's declaration of independence.
Yes.
The expression does not derive from this verse in which the word is stone, which is actually can be translated even. It comes instead from 2 Samuel 23, where the word is rock or tzur. Tzur is the Hebrew.
Very good. Excellent. Any other? Yes, Don.
Yeah, I'm coming back to Joseph's position with the Egyptians. He's already in a super high position as basically overseer from Pharaoh. And I'm not sure what Jacob's blessing does here. Also, the two sons, Joseph's two sons, are half Egyptian, and they've been blessed by him. So I'm not sure. I guess I'll find out the further we go. But I'm wondering how much more fortune can be bestowed on Joseph at this point. And I also, reading a little history, I realized suddenly that the Great Pyramids were already built and the Sphinx was already in place at this time. And so Egypt is a vast empire even now. So anyway, I'm rambling here, but I guess I really like to know where Jacob expects Joseph and his sons to go from here.
Okay. Well, that has been the whole point of it's not so much the sons, but is the tribes.
Yeah.
Because of the prophecies within each one. Yes,
Ricky.
please, Ricky.
Yeah, I have a totally different translation in the Orthodox Bible that I have here. It has it as a charming son is Joseph. Others interpret the verse as comparing Joseph to a prolific vine. This alludes to Joseph's offspring or to Joseph himself. Okay. But it says whose vines surge upward over the surrounding walls. So I don't know how it got a charming son is Joseph. Joseph is a wild ass, or Joseph is a fruitful bough. How those three different translations come out of the same Hebrew, but we don't have anybody here to help us.
Okay. One of the things, I have another. It says Hebrew Ben Porat is probably a wordplay on Ephraim, the more important of the two Joseph tribes, for a member of the tribe was designated Ephrati. The present translation takes Ben as signifying a class or quality of quality, and Porat as a feminine poetic form of Peret. The parallel clause, etc., etc. This rendering has the virtue of maintaining the pattern of the figurative use of animal names for the tribes. In this particular case, the wild ass allusion may be to the freedom and independence of the Joseph tribes, which occupied an area that had previously been sparsely populated, as is clearly implied in the book of Joshua. Take your pick. There are a lot of different, as I've been saying all along, no, there is not one single interpretation. This is a poem, and poems are open to multiple interpretations. It doesn't mean any one is better than the other. It just means that you have to understand all of the different interpretations. That's all. So, any other comments? Yes, Joanne.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm not sure this has been read before.
Joanne, can you move in closer to your microphone? Move in closer to your microphone.
Okay, I have.
Oh, that's much better.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do this. I have Joseph is a fruitful bough by a spring. His branches run over a wall. In Hebrew, it says it means the arms of his hands run over a wall. That's, I think, different than anything else I'm hearing.
Okay, yes. So there are a lot of different interpretations. Well, what about the archers bitterly assailed him? They shot at him and harried him, yet his bow stayed taut, and his arms were made firm by the hands of the mighty one Jacob. The mighty one of Jacob.
Yeah.
There the shepherd, the rock of Israel. And it goes on, any comments about that? Who are the archers?
His brothers. I didn't feel that.
What is Joseph's life?
Well, he was in jail, so the archers could be people that were attacking him there.
It
could have been
includes his brothers,
his brothers said,
his experiences in the pit, his being sold
right,
into slavery.
yes. But he also ended up in jail there.
Yes,
And
keep going.
He's an amazing person to me. To
What else?
overcome all this.
What are his other trials? Yes, he is amazing, but there's a reason this is stated this way. What are his other trials? What about, yes, please, Chris.
Potiphar.
Sure.
Wife, that was a big one because that's how he lost every reputation that he had as a good servant, where she betrayed him or she framed him basically. That was a hard thing for him.
What about his prophecies? Are they for
Oh,
the?
yeah. The dreams. You're talking about the dreams or the dreams for the
All of them, all of his
All of them, yeah.
interpretations.
Oh, he was.
Those are trials. What would happen if they didn't come true?
Well, they would have ridiculed him even more.
Okay, including the Pharaoh, sure.
Right.
And any other trials?
Well, I think facing his brothers.
Yes, very good.
And having to deal with how am I going to handle this situation now that my brothers are here and they don't know who I am. That must have been very difficult for him. And at one point, he says he couldn't eat. At one point in the scripture, it says he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep because he had this heaviness on how was he going to do the right thing, not the vengeance thing, but the right thing for his family.
Okay, and there's Grace agrees. And what else? Name one other trial that he has to go through.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, Pastor Bruce.
Well, I think that as we got along in the story of Joseph, you also see that he's having to deal with his father in a different way than he did before he left Egypt, which is also a trial towards the end here. I mean, everything's a trial. But even then, as things are progressing with the
family,
the resettlement, if you will, in Goshen, that now there's even some tension a little bit maybe of with the Egyptians, giving them the richest land, the richest land and the by the water and all of those kind of things. There's this, he's been dealing with favoritism his entire life.
And now, in a way, yes, but also in a way, he's been going from one pit to another.
Yes, that's what I'm saying is that, but it's the source from the brothers, now the source from Egypt, now the source from Jacob. I mean, all of these things seem to have been about favoritism.
And there's one other trial that comes to mind.
Why don't you say
Joseph? Okay, first Joanne, and then if she doesn't mention it, yes.
Oh, well, I guess I'm thinking it's a trial because Judah gets the brothers incorrect and giving them the blessings. And I, as a parent, would really worry about that. That's a trial to,
in a way,
have to work through, etc. That my father doesn't know his children. He got them messed up.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Not the one that-
What about giving up your sons for adoption? He could have said no,
Yeah.
but through it all, what is this? What is his bow?
The mighty arm of
And-
God.
Yes. Okay, and it says it right there. The rock of Israel, the God of your father who helps you, Shaddai who blesses you, the blessings of heaven, the blessings of the deep that couches below. That's strange. What are the blessings of the deep that couches below? Yes, David.
Well, I believe these blessings of the deep and all of these are kind of harking back to the beginning of Genesis, the creation story, because the waters under the earth and the heavens above the earth, it's almost repeating it there.
Yes, it
And
is.
it certainly goes to what you've been saying, that Joseph has had this terrible feeling of being on this pedestal all his life and can't live it down.
Right. Good point. Okay, Pastor Bruce, I'm going to let you finish that thought, and then Don.
I also think that it goes back to the creation, because when you look at creation, God in creation is in the plural, and in 49:25 we have the God of your father who helps you and Shaddai who blesses you. There's a combination of things going on there that we don't often recognize with a conjunction like an and, but I mean, we have Mighty One, Shepherd, Rock of Israel, God of our Father, Shaddai. We've got all these names that
That's
are
right.
all inclusive into this blessing. And I think that that's an important point that sometimes we overlook.
Yeah, and yes, Don, first.
I guess my question now is a footnote on Pastor Bruce's comment, because in the same line, we've got the God of thy father, and then we also have the Almighty who shall bless thee, blessing from heaven and deep. Again, it's a question of what the Hebrew is in this case. Is
Yeah.
it referring to the same power, or is there a distinction?
Again, Adonai, Shaddai, Tzur, Rohi is shepherd. I know a little bit of Hebrew. I can help a little bit, not with all the extra words, but the names of God I'm pretty familiar with. Mighty One, all those, there's different words for those things in Hebrew, but they're all pointing to the same blessing, it seems.
Yes, I would agree. Yes, Gail.
I was just going to say, I agree with you that he had a lot of trials and tribulations, but he really was a blessed person. He was favored by his father. He didn't die in the pit. He ended up, working or with or for the Pharaoh. He had the gift of prophecy or divining. He had a lot of blessings all through his life, in spite of the trials and tribulations, but he had the tools to overcome them all, I guess is what I would say.
And as was mentioned, that his belief in God allowed him to get through all of this. That's what
Yes.
it says here, and that's why because he's been blessed by God and all the other aspects of God. And so in doing that, he avoided the traps of that were laid out. Now, Jacob too has had a life very similar, of lots of trials, but he too thinks of his life being spared by God his wishes enabled by God. El Shaddai has looked favorably on him. So it's almost that Jacob is seeing a tremendous similarity between his life and the life of his son Joseph. All different trials, but the same rock, okay, gets him through and Joseph through all of this. Okay, Don has had his hand up, and then Helene.
Actually, Wendy was in front of me, so go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wendy.
All right, can you hear me okay? Because I've got my volume fairly low.
We can hear you just
Yes, I
fine.
can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. What the problem I'm thinking about Joseph with, yes, all of his blessings now, but all of the bad things that happened to him came out of the blue. He did not expect his brothers to throw him into the pit. He did not know what was going to happen from Pharaoh or at any time from Pharaoh. So he may be blessed, but in the back of his mind, isn't he sort of thinking, anything can happen to me now at any time again? It's sort of like a person who's in remission from cancer and they think they're cancer free, and then suddenly their blood numbers go up and they go, oh God, it's happening to me again. Well, couldn't that be what's in the back of Joseph's mind, that, oh
Sure.
no, who's going to do something to me next? That's my question.
Okay. It could be. No, it could be. It could be, but you if you answer it, if it's answered by your faith in God, that is, God is with me in all of these situations, and that faith gets him through all of these events, it strengthens that belief. So maybe that's a part of the story. That's a part of this story. Okay, Don, and then Pastor. Wait a minute, Don. Then wait a minute. Don has had his hand up for a long time, and then Helene. Don, is it okay to let Helene go, because I know she usually has to leave?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Don. Go ahead, Helene.
Thank you, Doug. I sit here and I listen carefully, and I'm awed by the brilliance of this group. A poem, is it all based on this? Is a poem, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. I used to teach poetry. A poem, the interpretation is amazing what you're saying. Each of you interpreting according to your brilliance, according to your background, what you read, your life. But all of us believe that God's strengths and challenges. You see, I believe that God gives us trials, challenges, in order for us to learn. How else do we learn except through our mistakes? Please tell me. How else can we learn that God protects us, guides us? If we really stick to it and believe this, we end up strong. All of this in a poem, it's just amazing. And I wanted to thank you for your insightful and fascinating interpretations. But I truly believe that it is the difficulties in life that teach us our lessons. And God wants us to go through not just joy, but challenge.
Yes, excellent. Very well stated. Very well stated. Okay, okay. It's other people are raising their hand now. Don is first, then Michael, and then Grace. So Don, go ahead.
Don't forget Pastor Bruce.
Oh yes, I apologize. I forget the secret. Okay, was Pastor Bruce after you or before you?
He was after me.
Okay, then Michael, and then Grace. Okay.
So, see, Helene, I've been hoping some of this brilliance rubs off on me, but it's not. There's an unspoken tension on Joseph as well. I was going to suggest that historically, during the famine, the Egyptians, they took the land of all the tribes around them, including the Hebrews, in exchange for some grain for food, which Joseph had to dole out. But then they exported the best of the grain to outside of Egypt in order to keep the Egyptian royalty supplied with luxuries. And so that would have had to come through Joseph as well. So I imagine the ethical tension there that he had to deal with was probably as strong as anything else he was trying to handle. So that's just a sidebar, but I mean, you keep loading it on him. And then also Jacob, his father, who by being renamed Israel, is really at the root of all Judaism to follow. And that's a big burden for Joseph to carry. It doesn't seem from the text that he's even aware of the size of this load that Jacob is handing off to him. And I wonder whether he will be at some pivot point where he has to reject everything he's worked for in Egypt and just follow the unknown guidance of his father, who is now Israel.
Wait for the next chapter. You'll get that. Okay. Okay, Pastor Bruce.
Well, I think that we have a dividing line between 49:23 and 49:24 with the word, the English word, I'll say, is yet. That, when we're talking about trials and blessings, just as, and again, Helene, thank you for sharing what you shared.
You did a very good job.
Yes, but it's that there's always a yet, is what I'm trying to say, in our lives. When you look back on our own lives, you can find trials, you can find blessings, and there's always this word, yet. But when you get to Joseph towards the end of 26, you realize that this goes way beyond Joseph now.
Mhm.
This is starting to take a very different turn in 26 to the utmost bounds of the eternal hills. May they rest on the head of Joseph. That is, that word eternal is it, whether Hebrew, English, I mean, it's a forever type of word. It's a very unique word here in this particular thing. But eternal is a very, very important word here, because I think it talks about then the blessings of Joseph going way beyond Joseph.
Yes,
It came from before, but now it's going to go way beyond.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very important statement too. Michael.
Yeah, if I may respond to Helene, and I appreciate so much what Helene said. Now, I'm not sure if this is what she meant, that we learn by our mistakes. Does that include mistakes made by others besides ourselves? Is that what she was talking about? Because if not, we learn by our mistakes, and we can also learn, and we should learn, from mistakes done by others, that you can clearly see it's a mistake, whatever it might be.
Okay, that's another very good point. Okay, Grace, you're on.
Thank you. You're all such wonderful scholars, and I appreciate.
Excuse me,
being here.
Grace. I just want to mention what Grace had written to, I don't know if anybody has been looking at the chat column. And Grace said, my idea of a wild ass and colts by the spring. Colts are male horses whom can multiply, and wild asses are very strong-willed and stubborn.
Thank you. I was going to bring
Very
that.
profound. Very good.
That the very first few verses that we read are seeming to establish that even though he had these tremendous challenges from his own flesh and blood, he struggled with the idea of, okay, how do I make this right? And as has already been mentioned, and I worked with wild asses. I've worked with BLM horses, and as a youngster, I had a horse that, and then even as an adult in my early 30s, I had another BLM horse that would follow me out. That figured out how to open the corral gate and would follow me up. I turned around and I'm walking in the back patio of my aunt's home in Tennessee. And she says, you got someone following you. And I turned around and there's my horse. And she had, opened the gate, walked out across the lawn, the driveway, and was following me up the stairs into the patio. And there she, very quietly, very calmly. And, even in some of the episodes where I was, in the arena in the young equines competition, horses did things for me that no one expected. I didn't even realize I had that connection with them. And I think that Joseph has a connection with God that is yet to be revealed. And we have, as a Jew, we have many different names for God. El Shaddai, the Holy One, the Rock of Gibraltar, all of those different names. And I think there's a number, but I forget what it was. Was it 319 different names for God, or
72.
72.
only 72?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where.
But
I
if
got
you add up the whole world's different ways of words that they use for a deity, yeah, it adds up to quite a few, many, many more.
Well, thank you for letting me share that. I know animals better than people, so that's just me.
Well,
Thank
that's
you.
cool. That's cool. Now I know
It
Ricky
must have been
has
a beautiful horse.
I'm sorry, David.
I said it must have been a beautiful horse that you had.
Yes. Your description of the horse is very interesting, and as David said, it's beautiful.
Smart.
Yes, smart horse. Ricky.
All right, I want to pick up on words other people have said. To what Michael G just said, one of my favorite little expressions I use for myself is, and I had it posted in my office, was learn from the mistakes of others. You don't have time to make them all yourself. All right, but then on the word yet, the way Pastor Bruce was using it, this happens, yet this could happen. So that's in spite of this, that happened. That's one meaning of yet. But the other meaning of yet that I know is like, oh, I'm not totally serene yet. I don't know how to do something yet, but I will in the future. So there are very different meanings of the word yet. It's a very, interesting word. And I'm careful whenever somebody says something to me like, oh, I can't do that, I'll say yet. And
very good.
Turn
very
them around
good.
and you're thinking.
Michael, you're muted. Michael?
Yes.
Yeah, then now we can hear you, yes.
Yeah, I got some difficulty. Anyway, Grace, are you there? Is that what was
Yes.
it Grace? Yeah, hi. Talking about the names of gods, the two the two most important, out of the 72 names for God, the two that the rabbis have decided on, the two most powerful, important, is Adonai and Elohim. And the reason that is, you can find those two words said at the finale of Yom Kippur, when they close, when everything is finished, being the holiest day of the year. That is stated, the very final, it's stated 7 times at the end of the Yom Kippur service. Adonai and Elohim.
Thank you,
you.
Michael. Yes.
Thank you.
Very,
Very good.
thank you.
Okay, Don, and then I have a question for Ricky.
Okay.
Look, I'm reminded the word yet, that quotation from St. Augustine, Lord, make me so, but not yet.
Okay. Ricky,
Yes.
do you have a Sephirotic chart handy?
Yes,
Okay,
of course.
you take your time. I'm just going to mention.
Right here, I got it.
Okay, some of you have that. And this is what we have just read is also a part of Kabbalistic teaching, that this part of prophecy and all the discussion we've had to this point about Joseph and Jacob, Jacob is given a central position on the Sephirotic chart. Ricky?
Jacob is foundation, yes, Ed.
Yeah, no, not Jacob. Jacob
Sorry, that's
is
Joseph.
That's right. First, let's
Right,
discuss Jacob. And Jacob is what are the attributes, if you will, of the Sephirot that feed into Jacob? Jacob is given the Sephirot of Tiferet.
Tiferet, right.
Okay, and that is akin to the sun. Okay.
All right. My little cheat sheet here is it is harmony, truth, compassion, and beauty. It's the balance of the powers of attraction and repulsion. That's what my little cheat sheet.
Okay, let me read a few more attributes of that.
Oh, well, then I could go all over the place.
Because compassion is a very important one. Also, the Blessed Holy One.
Harmony.
Heaven, Son, harmony, King, and it is and Jacob. There's only one other person that is given that in Torah, and in the months to come, we will be discussing the life of Moses. Okay. Now, Ricky, what are all of the different Sephirot that lead into going from the top all the way down to Hod and Netzah? If you would just read all of the different Sephirot that have direct connection with Tiferet.
Direct connection with Tiferet?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Keter, Bina, and Hachman do not.
Right. We know that, but for everyone who doesn't know, start with the top.
Okay.
And work down row by row and explain each one of the Sephirot.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, Keter is the crown, the divine will, the source of all delight and pleasure, contains all the powers that activate the soul. Chachma is wisdom and Bina is understanding. So Chachma is, wisdom is King Solomon, and Bina is Leah. Let's see. Chachma, wisdom, is the intuitive grasp and intuitive knowledge, whereas Bina is the analytical. All right, then we have Da'at, which Da'at, accumulation of all which is known. Chesed, we all kind of understand that's loving kindness. Gavur, we talk about a lot as restraint and concentration. And then we get to Tiferet, which
Okay,
is,
before we do that, let me just add a few things for
Sure.
Chesed.
That's
That's love.
Yeah,
That's love. Greatness, grace, water, and Abraham is attributed to that.
Hesed, yeah.
Okay. Then we have Gavora, which is power or judgment.
Restraint, concentration.
That's
Isaac.
right. Rigor.
Right.
Okay.
Justice, control.
And then if we go around to Ferret, we get to Hod.
Yep.
Which is
splendor, which I never used to understand.
And prophecy. Splendor and prophecy.
Prophecy is persistence, holding on. It's the power to repudiate obstacles and to persevere. It's a source of humility. And that's
okay. Endurance. That's Netzah.
Yeah.
And right leg. Do you remember the battle Jacob has with God or the angel of God? And how does God or the angel of God win the fight?
Wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestle match, and he touches Jacob on the right thigh. And it's prophecy also, but it's endurance. So you see, and now we get to Tiferet, okay, which is the central aspect of everything, and the qualities that belong to Tiferet include, we have mentioned, compassion, heaven, harmony, and the Blessed Holy One. But now, what emanates from Tiferet that links up with the earth?
Yes, and foundation.
Foundation.
Right.
And that includes the covenant, righteous one, and a word that may be familiar to some, tzaddik.
Yes, okay.
Joseph is given the term tzaddik. He is the righteous one. But that Sephirot links
to Malkut.
To Malkut. He's the link with all of the, if you will, godly attributes, the godly attributes with one. And what is Malchut? What is Malchut?
Sovereignty, rule. I mean, I'm not sure.
The assembly of Israel.
It's the ultimate. It's the last. I mean, you picture the lightning strike coming down through the Sephirot. It ends in Malkut. And then we have to work our way
the
down.
earth. It's the earth.
Right.
Okay, this is the link. That Tzaddik is or Joseph in this case, is the link. This passage is very important in Kabbalah because this talks about how this occurs. It is the earth, the moon, the queen, the Sabbath bride. We have a term for all of that. What is the Sabbath bride in Kabbalah?
Oh, Shabbat.
No, Shabbat is the day we celebrate, but we welcome in the Sabbath bride. It is the Shekinah,
Right,
the Spirit of God,
the God within us.
the God within us.
Glory.
Okay, so this is how the Kabbalists envisioned this, but this part of Torah is the basis of and the entire book of Genesis is the basis for which the Kabbalists extend all of the rest of their thinking.
Yeah, this reminds me of, and I don't remember, but it's way Moses when he's in the presence of God and God says something about his sandals or something, or to be barefoot because he's walking on holy ground.
Yes.
And Malkut would be the holy ground.
Holy ground. You got it.
I had an argument, not an argument, discussion with my rabbi that was converting me because I put I had books all around me as I frequently do, and I put one of them on the floor and he was aghast. And I said, yes, but it is holy ground. And so he had no comeback after that.
So I just wanted to interject. Yeah, go ahead, Pastor Bruce.
I was just going to say, I haven't studied the Kabbalah part of Judaism hardly at all. I mean, I do have on my phone everything about the Sephardic things and all the commentaries about Sephardic Judaism on my phone.
Sephardic or Sepharot?
It's
because Kabbalah is Sepharot. You said Sephardic, as in the Spanish.
It's kind of it's a combination of that. I have to go backwards to find the exact word on my
That's okay.
my icon. But what I'm finding is that they have related topics about the blessing of this blessing that we're talking about here.
Yes.
And it goes to all these different scriptures. But what I was going to say about the Kabbalah part, because I don't know a lot about that, is Christianity would also interpret this passage as God living within us.
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to say that in case somebody doesn't know that. But anyway, it goes to several passages, and they're quick. Deuteronomy 33, also part of the Torah, 13. And of Joseph, he said, blessed of the Lord be his land, with the bounty of the dew from heaven and the deep that couches below. Or 33:15, with the best from the ancient mountains and the bounty of hills immemorial. That's a hard word to say, immemorial.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that's the eternity part. And then even goes back to the chapter before where it says, and he blessed Joseph, saying, the God in whose ways my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd from my birth to this day. So we went backwards. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff from Rashi and Seforno. And anyway, just a whole bunch of commentaries on these. And Sefrai Devarim, are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all of these things are here through these. And then there's another one from Chizkuni.
Not familiar with that one.
Okay, this is and then I know you've said Ramban before, so I've got all of these together in one spot in this little thing on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the mighty one of God, the hands of the mighty one of God were with him, and the foundation stone is describing this as the chief stone, the highest position, the language of Rashi, the one who helps you is mighty above you. All those kinds of things are all stated in here many times. And I just wanted to say that I don't always pull this out when we're studying, but I thought with all the stuff we were talking about, I should at least get it out today.
But when I just want to also discuss the phrase, the phrase that we read about the blessings of the deep that couches below.
Mm-hmm.
What does couches below? What does that mean?
Sleeps.
What was that?
Oh, one, okay, I am not sure, but when you say
If something
couches
is
below,
couching, okay, go
are they,
ahead.
is something asleep waiting to happen?
Something that is asleep waiting to happen.
Rest.
Excuse me?
There could be the word rest involved here, but I'm not sure. I'm looking.
Well, couching usually is something hidden. He's
Encouched. Yeah, encouched. Yeah, okay. I get it.
encouched.
Yeah.
It can be. What else? Yes, Suzanne.
I guess I'm having trouble with this because when I think of the deep, I think of where not all, but many of the fallen angels or watchers are being held.
Okay.
Now I think of evil things.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so
if this is tied up in a prophecy, can you see anything else that in the future, we have read this every year? Okay. The story of Balaam.
Oh, you mean the talking donkey?
That's part of it. But what is said, what he's told he has to curse. He's told he has to curse the Jews, his enemy, the person that hires him. He's supposed to say something bad about the Jews, and what comes out of his mouth?
Blessing.
That's right. So if you it turns into a blessing. We say that every week.
I was hoping her phone would ding or something.
I'm sorry. I thought somebody mentioned something that came from something.
Sorry about that. I'm talking to Sid.
Okay.
I forgot wasn't muted. Ricky,
Okay,
look at your
sorry.
chat.
But we say
Ricky, look
this.
at your chat.
Okay.
Okay, I have a quote from an old Chinese proverb: with every crisis, there is an opportunity waiting to be seen.
Yes. Excellent. But from the deep, this is what concerns me here is that the deep can also be something, as Suzanne was getting after, not so good stuff, that even they are going to bless you. I know you don't agree, Gail. Why not? You're muted.
Well, first of all, I've got the word crouching, not couching in my, so, we're into the Hebrew thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just, but it says blessings from above and blessings below. I mean, if you just, trace the two lines, I think you're trying, personally, I think you're making
people who want to do you harm are
Okay.
still going to bless you, or even do harm to you, still going to bless you. So that, I don't know. You may be right. Just take it at face value. Any other comments about Joseph? Yes, Pastor Bruce.
Well, I keep scrolling. Again, you scroll down through this stuff and it's just like endless almost for each passage. There were several things here. One was mentioned by earlier about the presence in the bush by someone. with the bounty of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of the presence in the bush. May these rest on the head of Joseph, on the crown of the elect of his brothers, was actually something I was reading here. And then I went down and it said, inviting the kin to the mountain where they offer sacrifice and success, where they draw from the riches of the sea and the hidden hoards in the sand. That's kind of lower. I'm just reading all these things because it seems to all be connected with this one passage.
Yes.
Before you start going into Benjamin.
That's right. Oh, no, it's very true. So as you get down to it, you just see how this passage has been reworked, if you will. If Helene were with us right now, she would be talking about poetry and reworking other things into the poems. Yes, Gail.
Well, can't we just perhaps say that blessings can come from any place? Isn't that really, that blessings can be found wherever you look?
Yes, but here when they are saying from above,
And
that's usually from God, and below is usually the netherworld or the deep.
okay, I surrender.
I'm just saying that's the usual terminology that we've been reading in scripture. But yes, if we want to translate it to modern English, you're right. It could mean everyone. But I think you lose something in the meaning.
And when you look at Numbers, the blessing of Aaron, for instance, and then you go to the blessings of the children and your children's children, it's above you, below you, behind you, and it's below, above, behind, ahead. All of those positions are included in the blessing. So in agreeing with Gail, if it's a blessing from God, it's all around, above, below, beside, ahead, behind.
Because God is everywhere, so blessings are everywhere.
So
I understand the line of reasoning. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
That's what I was started to think of, was that blessing that we find for your children and your children's children and all that part that goes with that in Numbers. Then you have to go to Numbers for that, I believe, and Deuteronomy and Numbers, I guess it is.
It also reminds me of Sukkot, the waving of the lulav.
Yes,
that's exactly as he was saying that, above and below and to the left and to the right, I'm shaking my lulav around.
Okay, Don has been very quietly sitting there with his hand raised, and then Suzanne.
The way I read it was that Joseph's antagonists were all human, the archers, and that blessings, I've read the blessings as just being naturalistic, like from above it's going to be rain, and from below it's going to be seeds, growth. And at that point in time, I didn't see any need to make it any more complicated.
And the Kabbalists would agree with you because they would say heaven and earth.
Okay.
Okay, another way of putting it. Okay. Yes, Suzanne.
Two comments. One, depending on one's interpretation of the Messiah, Joseph could be construed as, what's the word I want? An archetype or prototype or
Archetype, yeah.
Archetype, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm thinking a little bit more about the deep and how could, in my mind, how could evil be a blessing? But if in thinking about future prophecy that one day evil will be eliminated. So maybe that would be the blessing from the deep, that it got contained and wiped out.
Would be nice.
I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but that's the idea. And Pastor Bruce knows what I'm talking about.
That's it. Okay. I can read. Okay. Yes, please, Joanne.
When I read this, when I read blessings of the deep, that my Bible says couches instead of crouches, but I'm a sailor. So blessings of the deep means food and other things for me, but it also means terror if I fall in and it's really cold or whatever. So this seems to me to have lots of meanings of, it may even be in some ways symbols of what Joseph has gone through so many times, but somehow been saved from the deep.
Okay.
It's an interest. My first thought was, I almost walk away from it because if you get involved with the deep and pull up an octopus or whatever, you're in trouble. And so that's.
Well, Joanne, that is another interpretation, and it's important. The word that we're discussing is the Hebrew word tahom, or taham, and it means the subterranean source of waters that rise to the earth's surface. We had a similar discussion about this when we discussed the wells of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the rising waters. And in this case, giving blessing to Joseph specifically here, but also water has also been used synonymously with, you understand what I mean, with
cinnamon toast,
the God's Spirit or divine spirit. And as a result, this is the reason for digging these wells, because you want to get closer to divine spirit, water, the spirit of life. Come on, we don't need any more than that. But yes, Pastor Bruce, you're raising your hand. You found something to this.
Well, I refer to this Psalm so often, but I don't read the whole thing ever. I just read parts of it. And it's Psalm 139, but it's exactly what you're talking about. Where can I go from your ruach? Ruach, yes. Spirit. If I go to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, the depths of the earth, you are there too. If I take the wings of the dawn and settle on the other side of the sea, even there your hand will lead me and your right hand will lay hold of me. If I say, surely the darkness covers me, night keeps light at a distance from me, even darkness is not dark to you, and night is as bright as day. Darkness and light are alike. And then it goes on to talk about the creation of each individual in the mother's womb. But what you were talking about, I think what we are talking about is this sense of the presence of God wherever. And there's, as I like to say, if anybody ever been to Mammoth Cave,
Yes.
you know, when they turn off all the lights, how dark it really is.
Mm-hmm.
One light of the match, one light of the flashlight is all you need to be able to see.
Very well stated, a la Mrs. Roosevelt. Yes, Gail, you're right on. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to address something to Don, because I know he used to fly. And you're talking about
Still do.
blessings. Oh, really? Good for you. Blessings are curses from the deep, but in the air, you can have blessings and cursings up there too, right, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hours of total boredom interrupted by moments of stark terror.
Right.
No worse blessing and curses on an I-19 though, or the Safeway parking lot.
I had blessings and curses from my bird feeder.
So what I'm hearing is that even in our darkest hours,
Yes,
God will be with us.
right here. Yes,
And God is always there.
yes.
Okay.
That's when we
Yes,
start to
Joanne.
pray.
I'm sorry. I missed.
I was just going to say, I didn't want to take anybody's place, but I'm gonna.
Okay.
When in one's darkest hour is when you do start to pray. It's just a common, something that's very common, and I feel terrible for people who don't believe in God, because we all need to be able to ask for help in our darkest hour.
Okay.
And no atheists.
Okay,
in the
good
gospel.
point. Okay, now everybody's speaking, so I'm going to say Joanne has been patiently sitting there waiting. Joanne?
I'm not so certain I have much to say. The next line says blessings of the breast and the womb. And if you think of the womb as dark and unknowing, and you must get to the light in order to live, it really, the two verses very much go together of that hidden.
Sounds good.
Also says how important women are.
True truth. Yes, Ricky, I interrupted you before.
It was something, I forgot. This is senior moment.
Okay. Pastor Bruce, was that hand?
No, I was just
Oh, okay.
thumbs up to the women here.
It's true. Now.
Oh, I know what I was jokingly saying. Blessings from above. I have blessings from my bird feeder. I get to hear their songs, but I also get their poop.
Above and below. Yes. Okay. Now,
on that note.
Now, there's the phrases, the blessings of your father surpass the blessings of my ancestors. Any comment of that, about that?
Is it in terms of the future? Perhaps there are more blessings yet to come, even greater than what we have already received.
Well stated.
Has already received. That's what
Well
I would-
stated.
It definitely connects into the eternal and the rest of what's going on in that verse 26. I think
because then it goes to the utmost bounds of the eternal hills. And may they rest on the head of Joseph. In other words, what was promised Abraham, Isaac, Jacob is now on Joseph.
Yes.
Okay. And on the brow of the elect of his brothers. They don't escape responsibility. What else? Any other comments? Yes, Ricky.
Well, it says that on the brow of the elect of his brothers. Sounds like it's not all of his brothers. There's just some of his brothers.
Okay, but what else is that? Can that refer to? And we've covered this in
Joseph
years
himself.
past.
It's Joseph himself. He's the one that's elected by God providentially to do this, in my estimate. That's the way I look at it.
And other situations. the brothers have a responsibility. And what about the Nazir? We will come to that in a year or two. And maybe 3 at this rate. You know, I was looking at everything, and it's not 2.5 years. At the end of September, it will be, or mid-September to the end of December, it will be a solid 3 years that we've been going over this book.
I know, and we're still in Genesis. It's great.
So we hope to finish it within 3 years. So any other
Well,
comment?
we're getting close,
Yeah, we're getting very close.
very close.
Okay, you want to discuss Benjamin?
He's a ravenous wolf.
Please.
Did we read that? Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning, he consumes the foe, and in the evening, he divides the spoils. Ooh.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
Any
that's
comments
good.
about that? Any comments about that with regard to Benjamin?
God.
Well, I'll get, okay, Suzanne.
I was taught that raven in the Old English means to pray with rapacity.
Is the what?
It means to pray with rapacity, and I don't know what the word rapacity means.
What do you think it means?
With well, I don't want to say fierceness, with a strong intent or purpose.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. So what Pastor Bruce has his hand up to help us.
You can't get enough. You're ravenous. You cannot really get enough. That's how I would look at this. I mean, you're after something, but you cannot really get enough of it. And if it's prayer, that's a good thing.
Yes. Here, I found one commentary that says a warlike temperament is characterized here. There are 2 famous war heroes or warriors in Judaism, Ehud the judge and Saul the king were of this tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I found another one that just goes through the same thing in much more detail without going into the stories. I would take up time with that. Yes, Don.
In that verse, any idea that Benjamin was greedy is kind of tempered at the end by the fact that he divides the spoil. You know, maybe he can't get enough, but then he splits it up. So it doesn't imply greediness.
Any other comments? Any comments? Go ahead. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, Michael, and then Joanne.
It could, I don't know if it would rise to the level of can't getting enough, of becoming a fanatic, becoming addicted, and that type of thing. Fanaticism.
Okay. It could rise to the level of zealot. Okay. That reminds me of the story of Phineas.
Ravenous.
Okay. Yes, Joanne.
Well,
Joanne, please speak close to the microphone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I'm wondering if this means that he is a soldier, or maybe even trying to be a general or of some sort. In other words, maybe I'm giving him more than just going out and finding ravenous, killing sheep and having a feast or something. But I guess I'd look at this that maybe he's a soldier or
Good
someone.
point.
Yeah.
Very
A
good point,
fighter.
Gail.
Yeah, well, Hurt says that this tribe is warlike in character.
Yeah,
So that would explain, and she picked up on that. He
Yeah,
was-
definitely. As a matter of fact, their territory that the tribe will eventually inherit, they are constantly having to battle the Philistines and they fought in opposition to Philistine oppression, and also dealing with the Transjordan in more modern times. They also were situated on the main east-west highway at that time, all the way through to the present day. And armies would be coming through that territory. So it has a historic connotation as well. It was also important for trade routes. It's blocked. Okay, sorry for the interruption. And so some people have said that the tribe may have also, and this is not as glorious, if you will, that the tribe may have preyed, or if you will, on well, they were highwaymen. Okay, and it could also imply that, but I don't know which one we want to walk away with. Each person has their own interpretation, and I think that all of those are useful. But if we put it into context, I think Gail comes very close. Pastor Bruce, Ricky, Michael, Suzanne, also Grace. Everyone has said something that ties this into what comes very shortly. Okay, and we have 20 minutes or so to. No, we have we have time. We have plenty of time to finish everything because we're going to enter the last words of the book of Genesis. Any comments at this point?
Oh,
Yes, Suzanne.
just real quick. Queen Esther was also a Benjaminite.
Yes. Yes. Good point. Sorry, I omitted that. But thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Yeah, well,
there are
gotta get
several
the girls
other.
in there.
Now, this was also discussed. This is in a commentary by Rabbi Plout. Genesis concludes with a vision that looks to the eternal hills. Perhaps the words that are now verse 18 stand near the middle of the Testament, once formed the poem concluding line and summary. I wait for your deliverance, O Lord. Because now this ties to the interruption that we read about 1 or 2 weeks ago, where Jacob is saying, I await your deliverance. Okay. So it becomes a very interesting, just a very interesting way of bringing a lot of the stories together throughout the book. I found another commentary by Maurice Samuel comparing Joseph and Disraeli. He, Joseph, has been called the Disraeli of the ancient world. The comparison goes much further than is usually perceived. And if it has not yet been done, someone should write 2 Plutarchian parallel lives of Victoria's prime minister and Pharaoh's vizier. There are many differences between the 2 men, but the similarities are astounding. Both were brilliant, and brilliant alike in their ability to irritate and to charm. We've mentioned those. Both were foreigners. Though Disraeli was second-generation English-born, both were democratic conservatives, concerned with the welfare of the masses as much as with the retention of the traditional authority. Different commentary. So, any other statements anyone wants to make as of this point? Well, then let us go into the last chapter of, if somebody would like to read verses at the end of 49.
I would be happy to read. But,
thank you, David. Verse
Except
28,
Marty,
28 to
33.
33.
you did not read the final verse of this wonderful poem, which I will begin with.
Okay.
Verse 28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And
It now shifts over to prose.
and then it goes into prose. And I don't know where we are. I think I'm missing a page.
Okay.
This is what their father
Any
said.
chapter them? Are we at
in
29?
verse 28. Verse
28.
28.
Well,
All these were the tribes of Israel, 12 in number.
And this is what their father said to them as he bade them farewell, addressing to each a parting word appropriate to him.
Okay, so that refers to what we just have been
Then
analyzing.
he instructed them, saying to them, I am about to be gathered to my kin. Bury me with my fathers in the cave which is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, the cave which is in the field of Meshpelah, facing Mamre in the Mamre, in the land of Canaan, the field that Abraham bought from Ephraim the Hittite for a burial site. That's heck of a son. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried. And there I buried Leah, the field and the cave in it bought from the Hittites. When Jacob finished his instructions to his son, he drew his feet unto the bed and breathing his last was gathered to his people.
Okay, let's stop at that point. Any comments?
He sure wanted to make sure that everybody knew he bought it from the Hittites.
Okay, why is that important?
I don't know, 3 times I think he said it.
It's a theme that runs into through many of the stories. But why is this important again?
Historical records are important.
Why?
For memorials and things like that that need to be preserved so that people remember what happened before.
That's right. I
don't remember, where did the Hittites, I mean, who were they, where are they from? I'm looking in my chart and I'm not seeing the Hittites. I know.
Well,
you need to find Hebron and you'll find the Hittites.
Hebron?
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. So there is a midrash
No, no, haven't.
that concerns why the selection of the cave. Okay, and in the why the selection of the cave, and within the cave, Abraham has a vision of Adam and Eve. That's it. So the cave is a very important symbol in this story as well. And think of a cave as providing shelter. Okay. You can live in a cave. But if you make a cave vertical, it's a pit. Is that what Joseph finds in the bottom of the pit? According to the Midrash, yes.
Interesting.
It is symbolic. It is a symbol, but it also becomes, even to this very day, one of the most important sites in Judaism. Okay.
It's still there, but you really don't want to visit it now.
I know, I understand what all the difficulties are, but you were going to say, Pastor Bruce?
I was just going to say, and I think the fact that it's mentioned many times also is that it was to talk about how it was purchased, and the acquisition was purchased legally.
Yes.
And therefore truly is Jewish. And that
Mhm.
seems to be the hassle that everything's going through right now.
Yeah.
Is that it's not, when it truly from this point on is.
Yes, and that we discussed also when we discussed Abraham. You know,
Yes.
that he had presence of mind to make the purchase.
Yes.
It's a very important thing. Anything given to you, he even rejects the offer. I'll give it to you. But he says, no, I will purchase it.
Yes.
He could have had it for nothing. But then did he truly own it? So so this becomes you see another aspect of this story coming, and that cave is very important. It will come up again and again as we go through. It will come up symbolically. Let's put it that way. In the back of our minds, we will remember this, because we will see what has to be done, what Moses will have to do, what he does do, a responsibility that he takes on. I'm not going to give things away, but this whole concept of knowing your heritage is important, is very important, what Pastor Bruce was saying, and how it all comes together. We're going to spend more time next week going over this in depth. We're not going to go right into the book of Exodus. There's much more to come. So
Number chapter 50.
Yes. So now,
I think we shouldn't start Exodus until Marty.
You want to
Marty?
read verse? Yes, go ahead.
I think we shouldn't start Exodus till next year after the harvest.
I know what you mean. I don't intend. We won't get to Exodus till next year because I have some other ideas.
Right.
Okay.
So
I do have another
years on Genesis.
Yeah.
I just have another thought about gathered to his people. That's also said twice in this.
Yes.
In these several verses that were just read by Ricky, that gathered to his people. I think that, that can mean death in this case.
Sure.
But I also think that if we look carefully at burial places,
Mhm.
nobody was buried in Egypt that was related to Jacob. Is that correct?
We will read next week,
Oh,
Joseph.
okay. So anyway, I'm getting ahead, but I'm just saying that I think that gathered to his people is a phrase about death, but it's also a phrase about space.
Yeah. You could say space and time.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I could say that.
So, any
As
other
in space
comments about this? Yes, Don, and then Gail.
Seems to me also, this is emphasizes the Jewish attachment of the body to the spirit, that even after death, where you place the body also locates who you were, the spiritual self. And that's been concrete through the ages, apart from Elijah maybe, but it's a very, very strong in Judaism that the body and the spirit are connected. And in this case, the location, it's, it's bought and paid for, there's no mortgage. Anyway, that was my comment.
Okay, good one. Yes, Gail.
You know, what's interesting though, is that Rachel is in a separate place from everybody else. And actually, there's a shrine on the road to Bethlehem.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've seen that, been there. But she has a separate location, which I think is, he buried Leah in the cave, but not Rachel. I just find that interesting.
I think it is interesting, and we've discussed some of that before, but what does this imply? You bring it up, so what's in your mind? Why is this important? Okay, Suzanne, your hand is up, and then Pastor Bruce.
Well, I see Leah as, well, she was the first wife, and I guess by our standards would be the legitimate wife. And then the second thing was Rachel stole those idols from Laban. And Jacob said that if anyone has stolen those idols, that person would be put to death. Of course, at the time he said that, he did not know Rachel took them. And since they never did find them, his words still came true because she died in childbirth. And I'm guessing that she must have been already pregnant at the time when they were leaving and she took the idols. And I think because she was pregnant was the only reason she was kept alive.
Okay, yes, that we had read that. And but Gail's question is a little different.
Now, she's
Why is she buried on the road rather than
Well, she died on the road, and because
and why?
her
Well, you said why, but why is she buried on the highway?
well, my point was because she had stolen the idols.
Okay. Well,
And
what was
committed
happening
that
in
great
Jacob's?
sin.
What was happening in Jacob's life at that point? Is a reason why he has to do it this way.
Well,
Pastor Bruce, I see you biting your lip. You wanted to say something.
Well, when you look at this story, I think when you get into the entire history that is there, I mean, going back to, you can go back to Ruth and Boaz, and you can do all these kinds of things with Bethlehem, as being the place of messiahship, if you will. I mean, for the way I look at things, as a Christian. But I think that on the side of the road, she's buried in most Jewish situations, are they not wanting to bury someone pretty quickly?
As quickly as possible, yes.
And I think that has, that's just a practical thing that I think has something to do with it. But, I think that when you look at the whole scheme of lineage, that it's appropriate that she's there.
Okay, Gail, you, and then Grace.
Yeah, I don't have any answers, but to say that she needs to be buried immediately is not really a good reason, because the cave and the shrine are very close together. The distance is probably 1.5 miles. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. They're very close. Rachel's tomb and the cave are close.
Hebron and Bethlehem are not that close. I mean,
no, but he did dump in the ditch by the road. And to answer Suzanne, she's a matriarch of Judaism. I mean,
yes, she is.
Saying she's worships other than,
yeah, I'm not saying that she worshipped those idols. I'm just saying she stole them, and because of that,
that's why that is one level. Yes.
Yeah,
it's a bit harsh.
Now, but what's happened? Well, Grace, what were you going to say first?
Something within me thinks that perhaps they needed a trail marker. So, they decided that they would go ahead and put her in her place as a way to mark the trail of their travels. That's all. Whether it's realistic or not, I'm not sure. It's just a thought.
What was, yes, Pastor Bruce.
I was going to say, for the Shabbat blessing of last night, it's always about Leah and Rachel. Isn't it? Aren't they both mentioned? They're both mentioned in all the Shabbat blessings, are they not? Yes. That's it. I think that's
why is she on?
But
what's going? Yes, David, your hand is up, but that's not a Wendy hand.
No, actually, I just wanted to say that I need to be leaving in a few minutes, and I will see you all next Shabbat, and I want to wish you all the very best for the coming week. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom, David. Same Wendy. So what is going
Wendy will
on?
be sticking around for a bit.
Okay. So what is going on in Jacob's life when Rachel dies? Why are they on the road to begin with?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, well, he was leaving Laban's area.
Laban, yeah.
Or Laban, rather, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And he was on his way back home, and he was going to, I guess, try to patch things up with his brother. I mean, the text isn't really clear, but I mean,
there are a whole series. There's a whole chain of events that occur in succession. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
Well, I'm just rereading 34, 35, just briefly.
Yeah.
To kind of, we have the part about Shechem, but then we've got the altar that was built at Bethel, and it was get rid of those foreign gods, get rid of those foreign gods. Of course, that was what Suzanne was.
So he's trying to escape Laban.
Right.
He's trying to escape Esau. They've learned about Isaac's one of his maids that died. It's held in reference.
And Jacob is named Israel here.
Yes.
That's a biggie. I think maybe that's what you're after.
Yes.
I don't know.
So there's a whole series of events that are accustomed. Is he going to survive Esau? Remember, they're taking a different route, so that when they bury Isaac, he's coming back. He's been away for a while, and he's come back. There's so many bits of turmoil that are going on, and I'm just saying that if there's a lot of turmoil going on, let's fast forward to today's world of COVID. How many burials have not been done exactly the way people would have wanted?
A lot.
In a
Way too
state
many.
in a state of turmoil, maybe that's all it is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gail, please.
So I'm sorry I brought this up now.
No.
Okay, so he's making all these arrangements now when he dies to be carried back to the land of Canaan. Okay, so this is a long-term plan.
Yes.
It seems to me as a woman that if he's that concerned about getting his body back there, that he should have said, and by the way, while you're doing all that, you might stop at Rachel's tomb and disinter her and put her with me.
You would think that he would also have some remorse.
Thank you.
Of not having had, and that is the other branch to what I wanted to say. So he's still being human in a way, not always seeing things through, not always having complete understanding. That's why our discussion takes so many branches, and it comes back to the same thing. We understand turmoil, but yes, in spite of that, he's now has been in a period of rest, away from turmoil. He's living a much better life. And now he's getting ready to die. Wouldn't he as Gail says, wouldn't he also want to say, please also get my wife's bones and carry them back to the cave as well? Yeah. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
I guess I don't know that in Judaism, I guess that's very legal to do. I was just rereading again in 35 all the details of this, and he did take time to set up the memorial stone over the grave, which says is still there to this day in Bethlehem.
Yes.
Bethlehem, Lehem, however you say it. Ephrata, Bethlehem. Anyway, it says that very specifically, and I guess even though that's been there for a while, I guess it wouldn't matter in Judaism to pick it up and take it somewhere else. I guess not.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
but maybe it's there for a reason.
Well, that's what
Suzanne was doing that for us. When she was giving the story about the stolen idols and hiding them under the cushion where she sat, and Jacob's final response to Laban, leading to ultimately what he said coming true years later. Maybe that. Why do you have memorials built for any reason?
Remember.
You got it in one word. Remember, not just the person, but remember the story. So be careful of what we say. Yes, Gail.
I just found a midrash about this.
Please.
A midrash, right?
It's okay.
Okay, it says, Jacob foresaw that following the destruction of the first temple, the Jews would be exiled to Babylon. They would cry out as they passed her grave and be comforted by her. In other words, Rachel's tomb. She would intercede on their behalf, asking for mercy from God who would hear her prayer. I mean, it's lovely, but a little far-fetched.
Yes, Michael.
And as I can see it in Judaism, remembering is a very, very part of Judaism, to remember. And there are different things that we do to demonstrate that, especially over the holidays as we observe. And I believe that most Jewish holidays are observed more than celebrated. There's an observance going on.
Yeah. You want to expand on that, Michael?
For example, the days leading up to Rosh Hashanah, we visit grave sites as a remembrance. We also place little stones on top of a grave site to, if someone else would, another family member or a close friend or a friend want to visit a grave site because they were just that, they will see these little stones to demonstrate that someone else remembered to go.
Yes.
As an example.
That's right.
And the concerning the Holocaust, always remember, never forget, which is something that I personally want to discuss. I don't want to open up a whole can over here, but there's some things that I have a problem with about remembering, only because on the other side of that coin, if you will, what do we do so we don't have to remember something like that again? And
Well,
I'm
that's the other side. That's the other side of the coin. The lesson that one learns. Okay, by remembering, you hopefully remember how it's overcome, so it doesn't happen again.
Well, that's just it.
That's all.
We go to these Holocaust museums over and over again. Why? And we keep remembering. So when does it stop? When do we talk about when does the discussion start to how do we prevent another one? When does that discussion ever begin?
That's right.
See?
Now, I understand where you're coming from.
That's
I
what
understand where you're coming from, Mike.
Yeah.
I agree. So I'd like to just move on a little bit, if I may. It's an important discussion, and this would be another discussion that could take place at a different type of group setting, because what you bring up is very important. But I think, yes, Gail. Gail, you're muted.
Just one thing I'd like to address to Pastor Bruce. You were talking about whether it was traditional to be disinterring bodies and bones and moving them in Judaism.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph's bones went to the promised land when they left Egypt.
As we're going, that's what I alluded to. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't want to steal the thunder of those chapters.
Well, we will have to talk about that next time.
Yes. I forgot where we left.
We were finishing 49.
18, verse 18.
Yeah, we finished 49. I don't know. We've only got 5 minutes. So do we want to start 50? Oops.
Where are we now?
We finished 49.
I skipped over. Yeah, we can leave it there. We can leave it where we begin.
That's probably a good
verse
idea.
50 next time.
Yeah.
I mean, chapter 50.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then we will go through that, because there's a lot here that we will be able to discuss in many ways too for this final chapter. And that's again the beauty of all of these. If you think about what we've been doing, we read the verse or verses or even the word, and then have very lengthy discussions. And it's out of the discussions that I truly believe we get a deeper understanding. Okay, because for all of us, because everyone has something to share. And so, Grace, next time, I would like you to be prepared to discuss earth, wind, and fire. Okay, whether it is a music group or some other aspects of it. These subjects that we've been discussing have come up in many forms of literature, movies, song. I mean, the list goes on and on. But Grace, we're going to start with you next week because we don't have time to go into the depth of what you've said. Okay, is Grace?
I'll tie a string around my finger and hopefully I'll remember to do that. Okay,
we will all put that string around our finger, earth, wind, and fire. Okay. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for another good session. And I know some people had to leave earlier, and I understand that. But see you next week.